Welcome to Mistakes Managers Make number 4. Yes, we've reached the 4th series of this incredible journey that we're taking, where we're going to tap into spa leaders from around the world and learn from the mistakes that they've made. What an incredible learning session, right? So today we are headed off to chat to COETZEE, who is the spa director at Raffles the Palm in Dubai. And when I was chatting to Karen, it was so interesting how she said to me, Marisa, could we rather than call it mistakes that I've made or a mistake that I've learned from, could I rather call my session or my little interview lessons learned? So that was quite interesting. Karen refers to what she's going to chat to us about as a lesson learned and not a mistake that she made. And it's very, very interesting. We're going to head off to chat to Karen in a minute, but I just want to tell you about her lesson learned. And it has to do with being vulnerable or showing vulnerability as a leader. This is such an interesting session, such an interesting interview that we had. So let's go and chat to Karen. Okay, so today we are headed off to Dubai, which is so exciting. And we are chatting to COETZEE. So Karen, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us today. How are you doing over there?
Great. Summer is coming up, so we're getting ready for that. But great, we're doing well here in Dubai and everything is really fantastic.
Oh, super. Oh, yes. And summer there is really something else, really boiling, I believe.
You can literally boil an egg on the pavement, yes.
My word. Okay, so everybody, Karen COETZEE is the spa director of Raffles the Palm. And as you know, we have been chatting to spa owners and directors and managers around the globe, learning from their mistakes. And this is such valuable content for us, because wouldn't we all love to know 10 years in to our jobs and careers as spa directors or spa owners or spa managers, what we know when we started? Of course, yes. So Karen, how about you tell us and share with everybody what has been your biggest mistake that you've made as a spa director?
So basically, I don't want to call it a mistake made. It's definitely a lesson learned. I don't believe that we make mistakes. We learn lessons out of everything, every experience. So my biggest lesson learned within, I would say I'm about 20 years in the industry, is being vulnerable, being able to lead with vulnerability. My mistake was, I wanted to keep it super professional. I wanted to keep it really cold, very task oriented, bottom line driven, get the book full, get the spa book, full, and get the therapist busy. And it was just all business. And that's how I started off, and when I started as a very young leader, starting off as an assistant manager, then moving to a spa manager, I still had the same kind of leadership where I was keeping it really, really, professional and keeping a distance to the therapist and to the spa team, and keeping myself quite separate from the team. And I learned that was the greatest mistake, greatest lesson that I could have learned from that, was that it was completely the wrong thing to do. I soon discovered that I was really, creating a barrier between my team and myself. They didn't know what I was doing on a daily basis. They didn't know, what was going on behind the closed door, if I could say. Which, tasks I was busy with, which projects I was working with. And even though I felt like I was doing so much for the team, I was never communicating in a vulnerable way to them, what was going on and what we were doing. And if I was struggling with something, they wouldn't know about it. And so they just saw one side of the manager, which I quickly learned not my leadership style, and I don't think that's the right way to move forward.
So then, a question for you before we move on to how do you fix it? So a question is, how did you figure out that it was a mistake? How did you figure out that you were doing the wrong thing? What happened that you figured it out?
So, I felt, I had at one point a situation within the spa, and I felt that, I noticed that there was absolutely no connection with me and the team. I knew nothing about their struggles. I knew nothing about what they were talking about. And I felt like alienated from my own spa and from my own team. And I realized that was the point when I realized I am not connecting to them through the head and the heart. I'm just connecting to them through the head. I'm not connecting to them at all through my heart. And in the heart space, especially being in wellness, this is the core of what we do. It's well-being and wellness well-being within the wellness industry. Yes. And I had a situation within the spa, and the entire team were I felt completely, just out of connection with them. And I just realized, because I've never built actually a connection with them. So that was when I realized.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, and then your advice. So what would you say to up-and-coming spa managers, or even what would you say to spa owners that are taking this type of leadership style? Because, I feel exactly the same way you do. Lesson learned is, lead with heart, really. But what kind of tips can you give them to say, right, this is how, without going into huge detail, because I'm sure it could be a full day's lesson, but just quickly, a couple of tips on, instead of doing this, rather do this, so that they don't make the same mistake.
Yeah, so first of all, be emotional vulnerable. We all talk about emotional intelligence, but what about being emotional vulnerability? So connect with your team, be willing to expose yourself first. So that to me, because, I saw vulnerability as a weakness. I saw it as, literally just being a weakness. So just exposing yourself, sharing your own struggles, sharing of your own life. For instance, if you've been a therapist, if you have a therapist background, which I had, I made a mistake way back when I just started, when I was 18. I made a mistake with throwing away one consultation form of a client, and then the client actually came back and there was a big issue, and that was huge for me. That was huge. I was in the US, and I shared those kind of stories with them, and shared with them the importance of having the consultation, keeping the consultation, and I shared my story of how I really basically messed up that time as a therapist, and just exposing yourself and just being authentic and not being scared of being seen as weak. I think that's the main key. That's the first step.
Okay, well, that sounds amazing. And then also, you mentioned earlier on that they don't really know what you're busy doing. So how do they get to know what you're busy doing? Do you tell them? Do you say, okay, team, this is what I'm doing today? Or how do they then know what you're busy doing?
Yeah, so the main important thing is the communication with the briefings and the departmental meetings, which we were doing. I was doing that always. I was always having, obviously, the meetings, daily briefings, but I never actually included them. So what I did then, I actually started listening to their suggestions. So I would stand there and I would say, okay, so we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing this marketing, we're doing this strategy, and they would just sit there, have no idea. And so I started to involve them. I started to say, so what do you think? What promotion do you think would work? And do you have any ideas? Do you have any suggestions? And that really shifted the whole dynamic for them, knowing what I'm doing and how important it is to the business, and just getting them involved. And that was another thing which I really did.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay. All right. Well, I mean, that sounds incredible. Thank you for sharing that lesson learned with us, because I think it's super valuable to everybody out there who's either running a spa or changing careers and taking over a new spa maybe, or building new spas, is like you've said, to lead with vulnerability, which I think is quite it's beautiful. It sounds beautiful even.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it took a couple of years, and it took a couple of hits and miss, and finally you just get to that point. And I think the main important thing is to just to find your own leadership, and then just know that you're working with people, and leading with your heart is just the main point. If you lead with your heart, you will get your answers, on how to lead your team and how to lead the business.
Amazing. And then, I mean, the last question, Karen, just quickly, is: do you find that leading, I can't exactly use the words post-COVID, because we're still sort of in the middle of it, right? But do you find that you need to lead even more so with your heart in this COVID world that we find ourselves in?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I mean, everybody is still not sure what's going to happen. Anything can happen tomorrow. Everything is so volatile. And I mean, for instance, with us in the spa and in all hospitality and in all companies, I'm sure today you have, 3 therapists, and tomorrow 3 is out with COVID. And then you have, this big dilemma. So basically, it's just having, showing your leadership that everything is going to be okay, that you've got it under control. If as much as possible, try to have a plan B in place, and just give support to your team, work with them, work next to them. And that's what I can say. That's what we've been doing here. And everybody seems to be coping fine so far.
Okay, that sounds amazing. Okay, so Karen, we won't take up too much of your time. Thank you so much for taking part in our Around the World. And like you've called it lessons learned, which is great, because we've been calling it mistakes. Thank you so much. And also thank you for the SOP that you've helped, that you've sent to me. So I'll adapt it and tweak it a little bit. And then everybody who's listening in can look forward to receiving that the week after the week after they've heard your interview with me. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was such an honor, such a pleasure. And yes, definitely, I hope it helps someone out there, and that it's definitely a good lesson to be learned.
It indeed will. Thank you so much, Karen. So we'll catch up soon, okay?
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes, ciao.